Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. Before I formally start the meeting, I can confirm that this meeting is being held in accordance with the Licensing Act 2003 and the Licensing Act Hearing Regulations 2005, which allow councils to make their own arrangements for licensing subcommittees to hear matters in connection with premises licence. I will now go to each subcommittee member in turn to confirm that they can hear and be heard. So if you could verbally confirm that you are able to hear me, I will confirm in response that I can hear you. Where practicable, please also have your video switched on so that you can be seen by other members in attendance and the public watching. Now, I know that Councillor Polly Andrews is having technical difficulties with her camera this morning, so she will be attending in audio only. So if I could ask Councillor Polly Andrews, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Chairman.
I can hear you, Councillor Andrews. Thank you. And second, one of our members this morning, Councillor Paul Andrews.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, all. I can hear and see you clearly.
And I can see and hear you also, Councillor Andrews. Because we have two Councillor Andrews with the initial P today, I will refer to them by their first name and second name. So therefore, Councillor Polly Andrews and then Councillor Paul Andrews. Can I also request that officers who will be present throughout the meeting can confirm that they can hear and be heard? First of all, from the Licensing Authority, Emma Beauvoir.
Good morning, Chair. I can hear and see you.
Yes, good morning to you, Emma. I can hear and see you also. Caroline Marshall, our clerk to the committee.
Yes, Chair, I can see and hear you.
And I can see and hear you also. Good morning, Caroline. Alice McAlpine, our legal advisor.
We'll try that again. Good morning, Chair. I can see and hear you.
Good morning to you, Alice. We can see and hear you also. And finally, Sarah Buffery, our technical support officer this morning.
Yes, I can hear and see you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Good morning to you also. I would like to welcome everyone to today's meeting. The Council is video and audio streaming this meeting live on the internet and making a recording. This recording forms a part of the public record of the meeting and will be available on the Council's website. Please note that it is the Council's preference that where you're able to do so, you have your video switched on. This precludes Councillor Polly Andrews, who's having technical difficulties this morning. Please remember what you say and do in this meeting has a global reach and your words and actions should be chosen carefully. Can I also remind members to ensure that they're wearing their headsets while listening and speaking during the meeting? This ensures that the audio quality is of the highest possible quality and that background noise is significantly reduced. There are some additional points for members and officers to be aware of. As part of our meeting etiquette, all microphones apart from mine will be placed on mute at the start and during the meeting. I will then run through the agenda in the customary way. When you wish to speak, please use the virtual hand, which will be on the left of your keyboard pad somewhere, rather than raising your physical hand, or I don't want to miss anybody. Please note that the chat facility has been switched off to ensure that members' contributions can be offered through the spoken voice and for the public record. Please also ensure that all mobile devices are switched off or to silent to prevent interference with the audio and video systems. If any of our attendees loses connection, the meeting will be paused to ascertain if the connection can be restored quickly. If it is not possible to recover the connection within a reasonable amount of time, the meeting will continue as long as a quorum of committee members remains able to hear the proceedings and be heard. If you plan to leave the meeting before the end of the meeting, could you please indicate this now? So are there any questions on that before we continue? No? Okay, thanks very much. We'll now formally open the meeting and go to agenda one on the agenda item one, even on our papers this morning. Are there any apologies for absence?
There are no apologies for absence, Chair.
Thank you very much. That means there are no name substitutes. Item 3 is declarations of interest. Are there any Schedule 1, Schedule 2 or other interests to be declared for items on the agenda today? Could you please do this by raising your virtual hand, I will then ask you to speak to notify the meeting of which the item you have an interest in and the nature of that interest. Are there any declarations of interest from members? Councillor Andrews is plural. No. Okay, that leads us on then to item 4 on the agenda, which is to consider an application to grant a premises licence in respect of Hereford Rugby Club, Wyside, Belvedere Lane, Hereford, HR40PH under the Licensing Act 2003. This application was originally heard on the 14th of July and adjourned so a site visit could take place, which took place earlier this week. And since the agenda was published, there have been 2 supplements, one on the 18th of August and one on this morning, which is the latest supplement. So the orders of speakers will be Emma Bowell, who will give the licensing authorities representation, and then we have the applicant and the applicant's agent, which is Ms. Di Higginbottom and Mr. Nick Semper as acting as the agent. They will then have questions from committee members. We'll then adjourn and come back and when we've made our decision, which I'll give the time for us to come back then. So Emma, if you'd like to lead on with the licensing authority, please.
Thank you, Chair. As the Chair just previously said, this is an application to consider a grant of a premise licence in respect of Hereford Rugby Club, Wyside, Belvedere Lane, Hereford. The reasons for the recommendations that are set out in the report are that it ensures compliance with the Licensing Act 2003. The application for the grant of a premise licence has received relevant representation and is therefore brought before the committee today. Herefordshire Council Statement of Licensing Policy 2020 to 2025 states all representation must be relevant. For example, they must be about the likely effect of the grant of the application. This followed paragraph 8.57 in the section 182 guidance, which uses the same wording. The details of the application are Hereford Rugby Football Club Limited. The agent is the licensing guide. He received the application on the 25th of May 2021 and the 28-day consultation started on the 26th of May. The 28-day consultation ended on the 22nd of June. The application, which can be found at Appendix 1, requests the grant of a premise licence to allow the following: live music and recorded music for indoors, Monday to Thursday, midday to 11 p.m, Friday to Saturday, midday to half midnight. Late night refreshment, indoors and outdoors, Friday to Saturday, 11 p.m. until 1 a.m. Sale and supply of alcohol for consumption on and off the premises, Sunday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until 11 p.m. and Friday to Saturday, 10 a.m. until 1 a.m. Non-standard timings for licensable activities are terminal hour to be expended till 0100 on Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, Valentine's Day, bank holidays and Sunday preceding the bank holiday Mondays. Under the Live Music Act of 2012 as amended, an alcohol licensed premises can have live and or recorded music from 0800 until 2300 for up to 500 people, without the need for these activities to be on a premises licence. A set of conditions to promote those licensing objectives have been proposed by the applicant and will form as part of the licence if granted and can be found at Appendix 2. No representations were received from any of the responsible authorities. Their Environmental Health made a comment on this application and can be found at Appendix 3. 13 relevant representations have been received from members of the public, and that can be found at Appendix 4. One representation was received after the end of the consultation period and has been rejected by the authority, but has been kept on file. The application was first brought to committee on the 14th of July for determination. The decision was to adjourn the meeting until the 17th of August at 10 a.m, which would allow for a site visit on the 6th of August at 4 p.m. The reason for the site visit was for the need to understand the location of the premises, to fully consider the points made by the public representations and the applicant's agent. The site meeting that was arranged for the 6th of August was adjourned to not be in quorum and took place on the 17th of August. With the subcommittee hearing being postponed from the 17th of August to today's meeting, the 20th of August. On the 6th of August, the applicant and the applicant's agent met with those who had made public representation at the premises, and the details of this visit can be found at Appendix 5. There are a number of legal implications that the committee and the panel members should be aware of, and your legal advisor can advise you further on those if needed. There is a right of appeal under Schedule 5 of the Licensing Act. An appeal should be made to Magistrates Court and must be made within 21 days beginning with the day which the appellant was notified by the authority of the decision appealed against. All responsible authorities and members of the public living within Herefordshire have been consulted. Appendices 1 to 5 can be found at the back of the report. And as the Chair said earlier, there has been 2 supplemental information that has been published since the reports. Many thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Emma. Members, Polly Andrews and Councillor Paul Andrews, have you any questions for Emma as representing the licensing authority?
No, Chair.
Not at the moment, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, we now turn to the applicant and the applicant's agent, Mr. Samper and Ms. Higginbotham. Mr. Samper?
Good morning, sir. I've got a brief presentation to make if you'd like to hear it, sir.
Yes, please, Mr. Samper.
Okay, well, thank you for sight of the additional information that I was informed was requested at the site visit on the 17th of August by the members of the subcommittee. Now, the subcommittee are already aware that this application is confined solely to licensable activities and regulated entertainment that take place within the footprint of the clubhouse. This is not a review of anything or anybody. So to that end, this hearing is being held to determine the question of whether the operating schedule within this application is capable of promoting the licensing objectives. In our submission, it is most capable of doing same, and with the greatest respect to everyone here present, there is no other issue within the remit of the subcommittee today. But returning to the additional information, there are several things that are immediately apparent from it, and in no particular order. 1, firstly, the application before you does not cover any regulated entertainment or any other licensable activity outside the clubhouse. Therefore, and like I say, with the greatest respect, any issues surrounding, I'll just get rid of that, surrounding historic TENs are outside the scope of this application and are therefore not relevant. The committee will note the increased number of TENs given by the club in 2021 compared with the previous years. Well, restarting after COVID has accounted for most of them. But most years, the club holds only one event requiring a 10, being the annual dinner, except for when it's being held on other licensed premises. Now, it appears from the list of 10s provided by the licensing department in the supplement that we received the other day, that the event complained of, i.e., there's in that supplement there's a noise complaint, the heavily redacted noise complaint. Well, this regarding an event that happened on the 31st of July, and seemingly within that supplement there is no mention of a 10 being in place on that date. However, nothing is further from the truth, and why it is missing from the report is disturbing, because we've served upon you proof of the fact that a 10 was indeed given for that day. That event in itself was a corporate event for Zoom, the company that's fitting the cables throughout the city right now. It started at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and it finished at 21:45 hours that day. There was a marquee on the pitch and a live band played 2 sets during the day. The first started at about 4 o'clock and concluded at 4:45 p.m. and the second started at 5:15 and concluded at 6 p.m. Now, prior to the commencement of the first set, obviously there was a sound check. Now, Ivan Powell, who will be known to some of you, the club chair, went to the perimeter fence that borders the residential complex in order to confirm his suspicions that the sound check was of the PA was proving too loud. This was confirmed, and he spoke to the band immediately and ordered them to dial it down, which they also did immediately. There was no further occurrence, and therefore the whole cause giving rise to this single complaint lasted for no more than 10 minutes and occurred at around 4 p.m. on that Saturday afternoon. Now, we note that, apart from an advisory letter sent back in 2017, there has been But what this one complaint from the 31st of July recorded against the club's use of TENS. Although heavily redacted, it does not appear that the reporter has replied to the EHO request for further particulars sent to them on the 9th of August. It's also apparent that since 2016, no other complaints concerning TENS given by the club have been received by the council, and on no occasion has any of the responsible authorities ever served an objection notice regarding the giving of a 10 by the club in over 5 years. That's as far as the records go back that we've been served upon us. There have been other events and other 10s given by other premises users over the years which have been permitted to use the club grounds. Now, Hereford Rugby Club is not responsible for what they do, but in the event that there have been substantive complaints about what's happened under those 10s, then it is unlikely that permission would be given for future events to those other users. And lastly, you'll be aware that there is ample provision elsewhere in the legislation, the Licensing Act, to deal with 10s, should there be any problems in the future. However, I refer the committee to my report following the public meeting, whereby we were able to agree a way forward with a nominated resident from the local complex, whom Di and the club can liaise with going forward, and vice versa. Therefore, we believe that the issues raised regarding 10s have actually been addressed outside, but as a consequence of this application process and as a result of your directions, Chair, for which we are grateful. So in conclusion, the fact that a noise complaint, which does not appear to have been followed up, has been logged a week after the event, which took place on the 31st of July, makes no difference to these proceedings, as the event complained about occurred some 6 to 8 weeks after the close of the consultation period, and is not referenced in any of the representations. The relevance of this latest information, therefore, must come into question. That said, again, we note the concerns and look forward to working with our neighbours to address any of their issues around 10s on our pitch. Now, I said in the opening submission, the entirety of the additional information is not part of your concern today with respect. It is, your concern today is solely around the capability of the operating schedule and its attendant conditions to promote the licensing objectives. And therefore, we respectfully urge the committee to grant this application in the terms of within which it's been made. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Semper. Emma, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I'd just like to confirm to the committee members that looking at the supplemental information regarding the 31st of July temporary event notice, it was submitted via gov.uk. I've checked all of our licensing inboxes via email, which is how we receive them off our technical support team, and it appears that we haven't received that application. Whether it wasn't downloaded correctly off gov.uk, whether gov.uk didn't forward it on to us, I can't answer that, but that's the reason why it wasn't on that spreadsheet.
Okay, thank you very much for that explanation as far as we are concerned as the council's representative. Are there any questions from Councillor Polly Andrews?
Not at the moment, Chairman.
Councillor Paul Andrews?
Same here, not at the moment, Chairman.
Okay. Ms Higginbotham, would you have anything you'd like to add to what Mr. Semper has said on your behalf?
No, thank you, Chair. I'm happy with what Mr. Semper has said. However, I do have some concern outside of this meeting that my 10s wasn't recorded because I received a confirmation of receipt and a tacit consent to go ahead. So I'm very concerned that I may have held that in breach of licensing regulations, as you didn't appear to have record of it. That's all I'd like to note at this time.
I would, yes, it is concerning that you're, I think Mr. Semper did send photographic evidence from the screenshots of that application. It's concerning for us that hasn't been registered. Would you like to respond to that, Emma?
Yeah, unfortunately, we as an authority have no control over gov.uk. It's an external portal. However, because temporary event notices have tacit consent, if we obviously don't reply to you within the time frame, the event can go ahead due to that tacit consent anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think your concern is justified, but I think the methods by which we submit temporary events notices into our systems do need to be reviewed, and thank you for highlighting that. And I'm sure Emma will pass that on to and Alice to the legal teams about how making sure that these do get submitted.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now retire to consider this application. It is now 21 minutes past 10. We will return at 10 minutes to 11. That gives us just under half an hour. So if the live stream could be paused, please, Sarah. And that they can hear and be heard. First of all, Councillor Polly Andrews.
Yes, Chair, I can hear you.
And I can hear and see you. Councillor Paul Andrews.
Yes, Chair, I can see and hear you clearly.
And I see and hear you too, Councillor Andrews, plural. So thank you for your patience, everybody. The decision of the committee is as follows. We have heard from the licensing authority, the applicant and the applicant's agent, and we have taken quite a lot of notice of the public representations made by members of the public living nearby. Filtering out what is related to the area that is actually being applied for today, i.e. within the building, and what is happening on other areas of the ground has proved to be a bit of a challenge for us, but we do note that the area of licensable activity is clearly defined within the building by the red line submitted on the paperwork. Well, I must say we are really pleased that dialogue has been started with the residents of Barton West, and I think that should be a marker for all future applicants that dialogue is the key to successful applications and certainly for successful relations with your surrounding communities when it comes to applying for licenses like this. So the decision of the committee is to grant this license as applied for with one modification. That is that all licensable activity will cease at 23:59 hours on Friday and Saturdays. The non-standard timings, i.e. for Christmas, Valentine's Day and others specified within the applications, remain as requested at 0100 hours. That is the decision of the committee. Unless there are any other points from members, I will ask that the live stream be stopped.